Hi.
Warm greetings and welcome to today's edition of the African Leadership Group Nigerian Leadership Series. And today we have who I consider to be a very, very special guest indeed. Our guest today graduated from St. Andrews University in Scotland in 1964. Long. She subsequently followed her postgraduate course of study in the UK, Nigeria, and the USA. She's a retired professor from the College of Medicine, University of Lagos, where she was a practitioner, a tutor, and a researcher. During different times of her career, she served as consultant to the WHO, UNICEF, and USAID. She's the past president of the International Pediatric Association and a former Minister of Health of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. She is currently the chairman of the board of trustees of the Nigeria UHC Actions Network and founder and CEO of Adenike Grange Child Foundation. Please welcome with me my auntie, Professor Mrs. Adenike Grange, former Minister of Health of the Federal Republic. Auntie, you are welcome to the African Leadership Group, the Nigerian Leadership Series. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. A little bit stressed, obviously.
Are you serious? Are we the ones? I hope we're not the ones stressing you.
It's been a long time since I did this type of thing, my dear. Wow. Not to worry. Yeah. But I'm happy to do it.
That's Jumoke's fault. She's Egyptian. She feel that you could make time out at this time. I hope all is well. I know you're not in the country, or I think you're not in the country. You can never tell where people are these days.
Yes, they can even put a false background.
Yes, indeed. Indeed. Yeah. Excellent. We're speaking today on nation building and governance in Nigeria. And I think you are well able to really speak to this topic. You've had years of working in Nigeria, especially in the health sector. Your husband also did quite a lot of work in Nigeria, also in the health sector. You've worked in the University of Lagos, and you've also been a federal minister. So right there at the top of leadership and governance, and I dare say a bit of politicking in Nigeria. And we've been through so much in this country, and I don't know what you thought about the last elections. Everybody is still, well, most people are still in a state of what exactly is going on into a nation, and what, from your own perspective, really is the problem with Nigeria. Problem as in our economy is not doing well, our infrastructure is weak, our people are highly unemployed, 20 million children out of school, poverty capital of the world, they say, and so on and so forth. Why? What's the problem with Nigeria, and why have we found ourselves where we are?
Right. Are you expecting me to start now?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, right. Well, distinguished participants on this forum and our friends, it is really my distinct honor to start off the conversation for this morning, this afternoon for you, but this morning for me. Why have I decided to talk about governance, nation building and governance? Well, first of all, it looks as though hope is running out and age is catching up on some of us who have invested heavily into Nigeria. Invested not in terms of money, but in terms of our professional successes and failures, and in terms of our hopes. So why should, how can we justify not joining in the conversation? Especially when we are in an age of digital technology and social media that has linked us all up together. Yes, I hope you can hear me.
We can hear you.
Yes, okay. Right. So those of us who are in the diaspora for different reasons, some are retired, some are actively working, some just wanted peace for themselves, and some to be with their families who could not be in Nigeria. And so, we were watching what was going on in Nigeria and lamenting with everybody there. We saw the end SARS that ended badly. We saw more corruption following it. And we kept saying with you all that we would wait for a change of leadership, that the problem was the leadership, and we wait for a change of leadership. And of course, when that opportunity came for the change, obviously from what has happened with elections, you can see that we may not reap the benefit of waiting. However, we'll talk more about that later. So what has been going on? What is wrong with Nigeria? Before I talk about what is wrong with Nigeria, which Pastor Ighodalo has already talked about, Pastor Ighodalo addressed me as his auntie, which made me very like a Methuselah. I don't think I am. But anyway, he himself has been so active in this field, and one cannot help but be inspired by him to join in the conversation because it affects all of us. So the other day, I had a dream, not like the dream of the saint, but I had a dream that with this climate change that was catching up globally, suppose everywhere was flooded, everywhere except Africa, and here we are trapped outside Africa. Who would not want to get into Noah's Ark to get back to Africa? And so that, of course, means that we cannot sit and watch the whole place go into flames. We cannot sit and think that, oh, we will never get back, or our children will not go back. They may have to go back. So we waited and saw the end of SARS, as I said, and more corruption followed. And meanwhile, we were still calculating. We were seeing out-of-school children growing to 20 million. And in-school children, now what about in-school children? What was happening to them? Some of you must have seen some social media posts that showed children standing in the pool, large pool of water, singing the national anthem, in spite of the fact that the rain was pouring down on them through the roof of their school. How can this happen in Nigeria? In Nigeria, where we were supposed to be the giant of Africa, we have oil, we have precious stones, we have human resource, trained human resource. What do we not have? Instead of producing our people were going more and more into poverty. And 60% of the population now is below poverty line. So what is the cause of this? Lack of productivity, high cost of governance, huge debt burden, reliance on one export commodity, oil, which we now re-import as petroleum, the price of which has been going up and up and up, and thereby making the poverty in the country worse. Unemployment has been going up. And there's been a very high increase in the cost of basic needs in Nigeria. And what has this led to? It's led to violence, domestic violence, gender-based violence, child abuse, child trafficking, leading to sale of children, even by mothers. I saw some posts the other day, a post of a mother who said, well, don't blame me, I sold my child because I had to settle my debts. How very insensitive that is. But what has driven her to that? Obviously, it is what I had listed before, the governance issues. So we then said to ourselves, we will wait until we have elections and see how we can get more informed or better informed leaders into position. And that meant that we had to exercise our democratic right, not a privilege, it's a democratic right. However, we all saw what happened. There was more violence, more discrimination, more corruption. So what next? Democracy is going into doldrums as we await court judgment. Hopefully, the last bastion of our justice system will not crumble. So I have, at this juncture, I want to say that I have witnessed so many brilliant and well-meaning citizens speak on this particular issue. So my own contribution to the conversation obviously has to come from my working life experience as a doctor. I've watched millennials, Gen X, Gen Z, Gen whatever Gen I am. I do want to say that our own experience as doctors has indicated all along that we were going down this slippery slope. We started by with good policies. We wanted to provide quality care for our people. We wanted to save lives and limbs. We worked very hard. And there are so many people on this platform that contributed to that. The medical women, the NME, so many. However, we saw ourselves being pushed to the wall every time with every regime that, most times we would have to go on strike to be able to negotiate for increase in salaries or better conditions of service, and that will help us to deliver better services. It is not for ourselves, for better services to our patients, to our clients. But each time we went on strike, we were blamed as being insensitive, not realizing that it is the people who did not provide the wherewithal for us to work that should be blamed as being insensitive. We were blamed not just by the government, but by the people themselves, because they were ignorant. They did not know where the power lay. Now, over the years, they have learned. They do know that the leaders of the country are to be blamed. And so they all trooped out in large numbers to try and change leadership. My own contribution here is to say that all along I was thinking of what could one do if, as a group, we were failing, as a group of those who know what is happening and we want a better Nigeria, we were failing. We had to think of alternatives. We had to think of what to do. And so many of us went into the civil society organizations and professional organizations so as to try and develop programs at grassroots level. Develop programs where the people themselves are. And just let me digress a little bit. The other day I saw a post where a woman, I would say that probably she read up to primary school level, or maybe a little bit of secondary, and she was performing the rites for a baby, the newborn rites. Welcome to the world. And one of the things she said, or some of the things she said, was that, here, I'm giving you a pen. I'm praying that God will not let you use this pen to cancel elections, to falsify to falsify books so that you will now steal. She was saying this loud and clear. And I said to myself, wow, this is where we were trying to get to, so that the people themselves actually realize what the problems are and how they are to improve these problems or to remove the problems. So I've talked about this because it's very relevant. I want you to realize that all our efforts have not been in vain. We have been trying to find out how to communicate with the grassroots. And all our efforts to communicate with them are gradually now yielding the desired results. First, in terms of wanting to change leadership. Secondly, in terms of passing on the correct messages among themselves. So one of my experiences, which made me also realize that working at grassroots level is the best way that one could tackle the problem, or one of the ways one of the best ways one could tackle the problems was when I was working in the Djibouti local government by courtesy of Otumba Ashubomi Balogun, who made me the medical director of the hospital which he built for humanity, as a give back to humanity. And because I had the opportunity to run the hospital, I was able to put into action all the things that I had been talking about, that is to communicate with the community. We met with the chiefs of the community, and a couple of them actually said, oh, they would pay for some members of their community to use our hospital. That's the chiefs themselves. So there is humanity in the community. It's just a question of trying to motivate them. And one chief actually said that he was going to build a clinic in his community. And so what did we do to earn this kind of respect? We ourselves tried very hard to be there for them whenever they needed us. We tried, we made sure that the quality of our service was as good as it could be anywhere in Nigeria. So this was what the community needed, a sincere effort on the part of leaders to show that they care for them, and they themselves are going to take up they're going to take up the challenge of helping themselves in a sustainable way. Yes, there are many, many civil societies today that are trying to do that. And so my message is that we need to come together. We need to expand our area of operation so that it can become tangible. Without that, we'll be working in silos, and that is not sustainable. That is my message. That was my message in my write-up, which many of you must have read, and that is my message this morning. I have talked about why we should do this for our children, for our grandchildren, but also for Nigeria. Nigeria is too important a country in the world for it to be trampled upon. Without a vibrant and progressive Nigeria, the hope of transforming Africa and the entire Black race will be but an illusion. So we need credible leaders of thought, of vision, of integrity to inspire the required quantum of confidence in all of us. And that is why we must all join hands, cooperate, collaborate, and work together. And as we do that, that is actually responding to SDG 17. If you remember the SDGs, if we follow SDGs, we'll find that we will have gotten a program that will allow us to get to a very good end in Nigeria. So you should also remember that as we are talking, there are so many Nigerians outside of Nigeria who are actually willing to give support. They are willing to give support. And so we need to attract their efforts to Nigeria by ourselves getting in front to say that we are ready to work for Nigeria. We are ready to make our voices heard. And as I said, what made me agree to speak today is because it will not be fair for us to leave the stage where everything is falling apart without actually contributing to the discussion that will bring things together again. I thank you for listening. I'm going to stop because I feel that more of the time needs to be given to all those who want to contribute to this conversation. And as we talk, let us think of useful and feasible means of providing solutions to the problem. We have been talking a lot about the problems. We know the problems inside out, but what are the solutions? That is our assignment for this evening, this afternoon, or this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much, Ma. And we have noted the comments that you made. Number one, the importance of letting the conversation reach the grassroots and getting the grassroots involvement. I particularly like the naming ceremony example that you gave. Number two, getting all of us to come together, to unite, to forge a common way ahead, and so on and so forth. But I want to dig a little bit deeper for us, Ma, and give a little bit of insight. Is it possible with the seeming divisions, ethnic divisions, tribal divisions, even societal class divisions that is beginning to emerge, is it possible to bring Nigerians together to feel a sense of a nation? Because I think one of the challenges that we still have today is that nobody really thinks that Nigeria is a nation. Most of us think tribal, ethnic, and now a little bit religious. The second thing is that people who should know better, I think a few people who should know better are still more concerned for themselves, their own interests, the things that they would like to do. So for them, any government in power is okay as long as they are friends with the government and they can continue with their various businesses. For example, somebody was sharing with me a few days ago that why doesn't the private sector lead the charge of taking control of Nigeria, determining what is good, what is bad, and so on and so forth, that they should be able to, and then create an independent Nigeria. But again, most of them don't. As a matter of fact, if you talk to a lot of private sector captains, they tell you, we don't want to be involved. Let me just do my business and keep going. I don't know if you share this opinion and what do we do about it? And then the third thing I'd like you to speak to and consider is this uniting of Nigerians, getting Nigerians to talk together and all that. Who is going to lead the charge? Who is going to make it happen? How is it going to happen? Do you have any thoughts or ideas as to who will be able to do this? And then finally, if you can speak to the role of external forces. You've been high up there as a minister. What really are the challenges, the role of external forces in the situation of Nigeria? And again, your experience with the civil service, because some people say that the civil service also has not lived up to its billings or reputation. I think if you can tackle this for us, we can thereafter open the floor for questions and comments from other people, which Sonny and Jumoke, who are also on the platform, will handle for us. So I don't know. I saw you taking notes. I don't know if you.
Yes, I got it. I have it.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Pastor Ituah. Let me start with number 6, the civil service, where I worked, with whom I worked as a minister. I believe that they are a big problem. They're a big problem because they have been left to be both judge and jury of what they are doing. They have become quite opaque in their administration. There's no transparency, no accountability. And you cannot get them to change if you leave them to regulate themselves, which is what is happening. We had thought that perhaps by becoming digital, things will be better, and we'll be able to track problems and corrupt practices, etc. But it's not going to happen unless you have censorship from outside their own area, outside the civil service itself. So that is one thing we need to work towards. How can we get the civil service to be evaluated by maybe a joint committee of private and government? This is where we are not going to privatize everything, but we are going to see if we can have private and government working together to evaluate and to monitor, evaluate, and give sanctions where needed, etc. All that business of EFCC, etc., we have seen where it has led us to. You have the person who is supposed to be watching corruption also being left on his own to regulate himself. So regulations are very important as a civil service. Without pinpointing anybody in particular, but incidents that would happen that made corruption worse within the civil service had to do with the acceptance of poor service, of corruption itself. So this is where it has to be busted. The role of external forces. That's number 5 you give me. The role of external forces. External forces cannot do much if we have in place leaders who know what they want for their country. Leaders who are prepared to put their foot down and to make the sacrifice, not to be bought over. Obviously, if there are leaders who don't know exactly what the external institutions are telling or external forces are about, then they will fall into the trap of selling out and getting the benefits for themselves only, which is what will be happening. So that is my own impression of that. Okay, ethnic divisions, ethnicity. Again, I want to draw our attention to what is happening in the diaspora. All those who are in the diaspora are in the diaspora as Nigerians, not, a particular ethnic group. Even if they're a particular ethnic group, they do not earn their respect because they're of a particular ethnic group. They earn their respect because they are Nigerians. So if we can draw a lesson from that the basis of ethnicity, ethnic divisions, well, we do have an ethnicity, but we can use it to our advantage, not a disadvantage. We can leverage on it by developing our own areas, but not discriminating against others. And this is what has happened abroad, because everybody is recognized as contributing to progress. If everybody can be recognized in Nigeria as making contributions towards progress in Nigeria, then there will not be such a scramble for making your own ethnic group the predominantly recognizable one. I mean, I stand to be corrected. Everybody should contribute to this. But we have to start somewhere. And that's why I'm suggesting that we start by looking at the situation abroad, where it doesn't matter where you're coming from. You're coming from Nigeria. Not if I'm asked, which part of the country, I say from the south, from the north, from wherever, but I'm a Nigerian. I'm a Nigerian. So that is number one.
Here.
The private sector has a big role to play, and they have actually been playing a big role. There is no doubt about it. The only thing, as you've said, is that they may not want to be pushed forward as playing a big role. And that's what happens in big countries too. A lot of people in private sector make donations, etc., but they don't want to be known, So we have to respect their wishes, but we must ask them for assistance. We must let them know what is there in it for them. And that is where the government also comes in. There should be tax breaks if they are helping to build to develop communities. And there should be recognition of the private sector. I don't know how many private people who have done very well for Nigeria have received some kind of award from government. I don't know. It may be that they have, but those are the kind of things that should happen. And which leader, if we say that we are going to come together and chart a different pathway for Nigeria to talk to the grassroots, who will lead? That is a very big problem. But it doesn't have to be the biggest leader or whatever. It can be sectional leaders. There are sectional leaders who are recognized for what they have done. And having said that, human beings are the same in whichever area they are found, whether in government, in private sector, or CSOs. And they still have to be supervised. They still have to be, there must be surveillance so that they themselves are not going to join the band of corrupt leaders. So I know this is our anxiety. This is our challenge. So I hope I've tried to tackle all the questions that you posed, my chairman.
I think to some extent.
Okay.
I think to some extent, I think we still have a bit of a challenge getting Nigerians to come together. How do you think we can face that challenge? This their ethnicity, this their tribal rivalry, this state of origin business, and now division through religion. You know, we saw what happened in Lagos State this last election. Certain sections of Nigeria were being really, really castigated, and so on and so forth. You know, so it's really, really a challenge. Those thoughts come out at very critical moments. You know, and what do we do? How can we, as Nigerians, overcome this? What do you think?
Okay, once again, I want to remember what was done in South Africa when they tried to, come together, having suffered, the blacks having suffered under the whites. It's obvious that there would be temptation for the blacks to, take it out on the whites. So what they did first was that they constituted a committee, and they talked frankly to each other. There was, they talked about what they have all suffered, and they wanted to know how they will be compensated, So all that needs to be thought about. And as I've said before, towards the end of my presentation, I did say that Nigeria as currently constituted, or it's not conducive to having a unified government. And a lot of us believe this. You too believe it, I'm sure. And so we need to get to the table and discuss how can we transform, how can we be transformed so that we will be able to be transparent about what we are doing and be able to recognize the good in everybody, whether it is, no matter the ethnicity. That is what the Constitution says anyway. But the problem is in operationalizing it, as you said. I'm sure that you have had a lot of thoughts about this. A lot more people also have had a lot of thoughts about it. But we cannot really come together unless we are honest, unless we are truthful about what has happened in the past and how we can correct our mistakes of the past. So this is, I know it's sort of like going round and round it, but there is no there is no magic wand, I'm afraid, for this type of situation. Maybe we have to have a CSO that is looking at this and coming out with some suggestions on it. no one person can actually come out with all the answers to this. Thank you.
All right, maybe we can really at this juncture truly now appeal to us as Nigerians that we really have come to some kind of critical situation in this country where all hands really must be on deck to try and find some kind of resolution and a way forward, and us thinking as Nigerians. Can I hand over to Pastor Sonny, if he's on the platform, to then lead the next set of questions and answers, and we take it from there.
Yeah, good evening, Pastor. I'm here.
Okay, jolly good. Go ahead.
Good evening, Professor Grange. Very nice to have you on the platform today. Thank you very much. You've spoken very well. You were a minister of the Federal Republic at one time, and I do see a few hands going up. I will urge, if you want to ask a question or make a contribution. Maybe a lot of people from your constituency are on the platform today, and so we would take time, would allow them to either contribute or ask questions. So let me just ask this one question. When you were yourself minister, it was an opportunity to implement many of the things we say when we are not in government. How easy was it to do all these things? And would you say what you did, are they enduring? Why? Because people get in office, they do what they can, but when they leave, things fall back. So how was it? What was your experience? The things you implemented, are they still subsisting, or they've sort of fallen off the rail?
Thank you very much, Pastor. I knew this was coming. I'm prepared for it. Right. What was my experience? Let me say that my experience was totally disastrous, because it involved having to change long-held attitudes that were very unhealthy, attitudes that made working as a team impossible, attitudes that made transparency impossible, and attitudes that made building capacities impossible. So the big problem there for me was that by the time I got there, the civil servants, as well as some of the politicians who were, by the way, still in charge of civil servants, which should not be, but this was the problem. There was an indirect rule of politicians in the civil service. So they had already formed their own clique, and they knew they wanted to keep to whatever they were doing. It was certainly very difficult to change them. Having said that, we did manage to get some things done. We wanted the legislators to give more money to get a policy, a bill out that will grant more funds to primary care at the local government level. That happened, but not for several years after I had left the place. Yes, we did make a case for it, and I think that was the beginning of it. But 10 years later was when the basic healthcare fund for the local government was passed. So that gives you a sense of what ministers could and could not do. Then the other policy that I was very much interested in was the policy of setting up the National Center for Disease Control, which is functioning very well now. But again, it was not put in place until I left the place. You would ask me, why was it not received immediately? There are so many problems of getting proposals acknowledged, even, acknowledged, not to talk about approved. So, and I think I was known for not wanting to bend about their method to their method of getting approvals. So that was that. We also managed to get a bit of decentralization of the primary care, because before I got there, it was mainly operating at the federal level with a couple of states embracing it. So, we were able to get all the states to take on primary care. I was only there for about a year, and by the time I left, unfortunately, there had been a problem even with the leadership himself. So it was difficult, a problem, a physical problem. So it was difficult to continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. I see a lot of hands up. The way we normally run the program is that people will engage you. They will ask questions directly. Some will make contribution to what is being said. So we're going to open the floor up now for people to either contribute or ask questions. The first person, we'll take them in batches so that we can cover, maybe in batches of 3, so that we don't have to be answering every question one after the other. So please, I don't know if you can take note of the questions as they come. I will ask Kachi Okeze, Esquire. Kachi Okeze, and we take here Ms. Ikuti. Somebody by the name iPad, please, if you can put your name so that we can know who you are, we would allow you to go. Otherwise, we'll move to Afolabi Ajidahu and Adekemi Otolori. So Kachi, if you are there, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much, Prof. I think you've made your mark in history, and you will be well remembered for the work that you've done. And also thank you for the passion for being involved and for caring. I think the problem that we face is that we have a focus. I think we've focused a bit, probably too much on leadership rather than followership. I think the time has come and rightly to switch focus from recent events. That's what really, one of the things I took away from recent events. Do you agree with me that we ought to, whilst keeping an eye on leadership development, but we ought to now really prioritize engaging and empowering and educating our general populace? We have a problem. There will be no change until everyone comes to a point where they view the pain of remaining the same as nothing compared, as unbearable compared to the pain of change. What are your thoughts?
Thank you very much, Kachi. I will go to Yemisi Kuti. So Yemisi, you can unmute yourself. Okay, go ahead with your question. Thank you.
It's such a pleasure seeing my friend, Professor Grange. You knew I didn't have a choice but to be here when you sent me the invitation. Well, I'm very happy to have heard the pain that came out of Professor Grange, because our generation certainly feels a little, how shall I say, like throwing up our arms and saying, we've done this and that and the other yet. However, I'm not as pessimistic as some people feel, particularly about the last elections. Because given our history and our journey from military rule to this democratic inchoate system we're trying to develop, I have seen elections that really made you shudder and believe that, look, why are we even trying this democracy? Let's just find some monarch or some big man that will just tell us what to do. Because democracy is not our culture. And until it becomes a culture, then you're going to have a lot of the issues that we have. And there's no way you can have the kind of systems we have where your power does not work, your water systems doesn't work, this doesn't work, that doesn't work. Then your electoral body will suddenly become a magical institution that will sort everything out. So we always, I think, have to keep that in mind, knowing where we came from. Those of us who faced the tear gas, those of us, people like me, who were interrogated and were afraid for our lives, the fact that we're even able to discuss the way we're discussing, we should begin to look at some of those advances we have made and build on it. Sure, there were lots of imperfections, but certainly we can see some of the gains, and we should have the courage and the kind of, not Kool-Aid, but thinking to ourselves that, okay, it's not excellent, it's not where we want to be, but okay, we can do better, but there's no need to despair and go into some, complete tailspin about how terrible everything is. Everything is not terrible. And then we must remember that we had Buhari. Remember our expectations of Buhari. Oh, he's very good. His integrity, Mr. Integrity, blah, blah, blah. I'm for nobody, I'm for everybody. And everybody then went to sleep. And I'm glad the last speaker pointed out the fact that until we all learn that we have individual and collective responsibility, then the things we want are just not going to happen. It's not going to be magical. And the greatest challenge we have, and every Nigerian must understand this, is our institutional challenges, our structural deformity, the fact that the structure of Nigeria cannot deliver what we want. So what should we, my dear friend talked about going forward. What should we be thinking about changing? Everyone must, as soon as whoever is president comes in, everybody must shout, decentralize. You can call it restructuring, you can call it what you like, but power must shift to the subnationals. And we can institutionalize stakeholder engagement frameworks like the Swiss model, where within communities, the decisions that are gathered and are made, and policy initiatives that come from the communities, the grassroots, the wards, or whatever structure you have, is what is implemented at the national level. She talked about engagement at local government levels. Professor Grange is actually involved in an initiative that we have started in Lagos called Lagos Island Connect, where we bring the government at the local, we bring the government at the state, we bring the international agencies, individuals, private sector, chambers of commerce together to zero in on developing capacity, skills, particularly for young people, and also for the government at the local government level as well. Have any of you gone to your local governments and see how it's impossible for you to get the services that you want? If you go there, you'll see why Nigeria is not working. So looking at the local government and seeing how we can all engage and organize at that level is critical. Of course, without security, Nigeria is not going anywhere. Everybody must have a level of security where we can go about our businesses. And that is linked to the national cohesion and reconciliation that you were talking about. And of course, the next thing is economy. Whoever is coming in must tackle the economy, power, education, health, infrastructure. And all our conversations must move away from somebody stole the election, did not steal the election. Leave those to the courts. They can sort it out. We, the people, must understand that our role now is to organize ourselves, understand the issues that are really important to us. Whoever is going to get there must face us. We're not looking for Messiah. We're looking for somebody who can lead and who will listen to us and who we can influence. So these are my contributions, and I want to thank Ituah. Thank you so much. For people like you who are young, I'm 75, we're on our way out. So it gives us a lot of comfort that the young generation are taking on the challenge of organizing these kinds of dialogue. Because if we don't dialogue, we will begin to fight ourselves. So thank you so much, Ituah. And thank you to my friend, Professor Grange, for your wonderful talk this afternoon. Thank you all for allowing me to speak as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Auntie Mommy Yemisi Kuti. That was another very brilliant contribution. Thank you very much. We'll quickly take one more so that Prof can answer. I don't see the iPad man again, so I'll take Afolabi Ajidan.
Okay. Yeah. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. And thank you for letting me ask. I mean, it's very simple. It's what I said. It's easier to climb down a tree than to climb up a tree. So it's very obvious we have a very hard climb up the tree. Where we started falling down from the tree so fast, I don't know. I'm going back to when it was said earlier about how we're looked at abroad. There was once a time when our Nigerian green passport was regarded and referred to as one of the most revered passports in the world. Any border you went to, you are always welcome and you are always highly respected. Today, our green passport, I'm sorry to say, but it's a joke. It's extremely difficult to get visas. You have to get, we're part of the Commonwealth, but yet we still need a visa to go to England, to the UK. We're not the only country abroad that commit horrendous and crimes and do all sorts of atrocities and everything. But other people's governments help the countries where their nationals do these crimes and commit these horrendous criminal activities. Why does our government always find it so difficult and hard to collaborate with other governments to assist them and making it, I don't know whether to say making it more difficult for our nationals to get visas because it's already difficult enough, but it seems as if we work without a government when we're on our own. We work without foreign affairs ministers who don't come and back our nationals, and it seems as if one is always on their own. I find it extremely depressing. I find it extremely sad. And I think it's a complete, total package of how the institutions we have completely in Nigeria, where it seems as if the government seems they're just there for themselves and they're not there for the people. So in a way, I'm just saying that I totally agree with the first speaker that perhaps it is about time we stop looking at, leadership. It's about time we start following a right person. I mean, it's easier said than done, but I don't know. I mean, everybody says grassroots. So how do we get back to the grassroots? Everybody seems to say, so how do we get back to the grassroots? How do we take back the government from the hands of the thuggery that has taken over our government and our governmental institutions? I would like to know how.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we have been searching for that how. I will allow the prof to respond to this three. I will come to you, Ade, Kemi, Tolori, and PFA. Well, let Prof respond to this comments and questions quickly. Prof.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you. Luckily for me, there were more comments than questions.
Exactly.
And, this is exactly what I thought my paper should do. That is to generate more thought-provoking comments. And also, you will find that at the end of the day, we are still searching for solutions. We are searching for solutions. Okay, my dear sister, Yemisi, I would say junior sister, so that you don't, you can know that I'm a Methuselah indeed. My dear sister Yemisi gave a very, very good addition to my paper, I would say. And I don't think that one could fault anything that she has said. It is true that we are still, we have to leave behind what has happened in the past and think of how to move forward. And obviously, I did say that with the current, with our current, with the current structure, we could not have a hope of solving our problems. And she also has agreed on that and has suggested how the restructuring could happen. And that we need to be able to work on whoever the next leader is. I think that we should all agree upon. Whoever the next leader is, we need to work on him. Well, we can't say of her because there was no possibility of a her this time. So I believe that, okay, I think it's Afolabi that said something about the visas, getting visa abroad. But don't forget that our embassies are still part of Nigeria, I mean, the same problems that we are having in Nigeria is what have been carried over to the embassies. It's unfortunate, but there we are. Until we can straighten out ourselves in Nigeria, we will continue to project this inefficient image abroad. And the way the other countries work is that they reciprocate based on how they themselves are treated by a country. You don't know how Nigeria is treating those countries. So we need, to be more insightful about what Nigeria itself is doing abroad. If they are not doing very well at home, how would they do well abroad where, in fact, the surveillance is much less Nobody, and I've mentioned that the biggest problem that we have is the administration is not being properly administered or surveilled, so that you don't know what is happening. I don't think that I need to speak more. I'll give time for other people to speak. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much for those responses. I'll take the next three. Adenike Otolori, Professor Femi Ajayi, and BC Awuni. I will take those three in that order. Please be brief, straight to the point, so that we can take more people and leave here on time. Adenike Otolori, you can unmute yourself.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I recognize Pastor Ituah, my teacher, my mentor, an active supporter, and an MM member, Professor Grange. Everybody here present, I say a big welcome and thank you for being here. For this biennium in medical women, the theme is leadership, governance, and health. So it is very appropriate that we are here. Again, I thank the organizers. I think Nigeria is on the move. Nigeria is a male-dominated society, and gender bias is very evident in governance. It is one of the key things we have to look at. For instance, we have just 9% or less than 10% of women in governance. And again, we haven't had a female governor so far, though we have tried. I know the time will come. It shouldn't be too far. And even to think of a female president in Nigeria, oh no, we've got to try more. Now, this equity continues to reoccur in every facet of life in Nigeria. We're all aware of it. We all believe in putting the right pegs into the right holes, putting the right functionaries at the key positions, but are we doing it in Nigeria? And again, there is a gap, which is due to inadequate information to our people in the urban, in the rural, in governance, in everything. We have to bridge the gaps. And how do we bridge the gaps? You and I, we have to go down to their levels, because it is when they understand things about governance that you can make a change. When they don't understand, it's difficult to make a change. The process of making a change, you have to make them understand. And so with all the NGOs and those in government, if we don't want a thing, we have to call town hall meeting, we have to call the ballers, the geologists, explain thoroughly to them. And our media, the NAWAJ and the feeder, they work well abroad. Abroad, they want to change the system. They give us enough education on television, handbills, and so on. But in Nigeria, maybe a week or 2 weeks to the show, or maximum a month. Look at the cashless economy. It's an example. So I believe we have to bridge the gap, educate. Education is power, knowledge is power. Women, we form more than 50%. So I don't see why we should still be having this problem. If women are together, if women practice what we preach, what we write on paper, it will be better. But women, I should say, we still have some issues, because I've had cause to deal with women on many occasions as PS Women Affairs when I was in the younger age, and now in medical women. I know that there are issues that we women, we have to deal with to rise higher. Again, you know that Nigeria, is one of the signatories to the 35% affirmative. It hasn't been domesticated in Nigeria. So what are we waiting for? All other countries are implementing it. We are having more women in governance, more women in key positions. But anytime it comes to a woman, you will have to scrutinize over and over again. This has to change. We must look into this. And again, start it early, catch them young. The disparity we are talking about, we have to go to the educational levels, catch them in the nursery, the primary, the university system. It has to be a total change. Catch them in the judiciary, catch them in the education sector, in the agric, every sphere of Nigeria we must tackle. This is the time. Now that we have this group talking about governance, this is the time to take everything to the grassroots and also to the various circles. I thank you very much for this opportunity. I am happy to inform you that M1 is in the 36 states of Nigeria and Abuja, and our mission is to improve the welfare and the health of the people in Nigeria. We are ready to go to the nooks and crannies of Nigeria. Come what may. Thank you very much. And we are ready to partner with every group to make sure that things are properly done in Nigeria. Many of us studied abroad. Then why is it that when we come home, we cannot practice what we preach? We have to look into it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Pastor, is that you? Thank you very much, Ma. Very, very well said. Very well said. We will come back to you, and surely we would find some way to partner with your organizations, in what we do in the African Leadership Group. I will take Professor Femi Ajayi, and then after that, I will hand over to a female to tell our dear mommy, Adikemi Otolori, that we are gender inclusive here, and we do all things together with the women. So after me now, Jumoke Akintaylor will take over, and she will run the program till the end. So Professor Femi Ajayi, you can unmute yourself and ask a question or can make your comments. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you including me. It's nice meeting you again. You remember your face when we met at Teaching Hospital Shagam. Immediately you left the ministerial position. And your experience that time was very, very disappointing, as we discussed that time. And I thought that, well, given time, things will change in Nigeria. And I believe 10 years after that, I made myself situation that you faced. My sister, I could not even contain that. I had to leave. I come back to Atlanta here. Now, I want to ask you, from your experience in the civil service, where we think that anything we are talking about to change the country or do anything, it will come with them. How do you think we can act to form that civil servant in Nigeria? Because what you experience is what I experienced also. But before it became so global, I had to quickly leave them alone. And we cannot just leave them. I came back for the past 2 years to Atlanta. I just shut off myself away from Nigeria. And somebody keep on reminding me that we cannot just fold our arms to do something. What can we do? Actually, because those people who are there on the government, even those who have attained some levels, you will think that they are the ones to actually help us to improve or to make some changes. But they are the one making very huge contribution negatively to the growth in that country. I do think this area could be corrected. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Prof, maybe you can take those comments and questions quickly, and we'll move on to the next set. We'll come to you, BC Awoni, Juliet, Noyo, and Dr. Joseph. But let Prof respond to the comments and questions quickly.
Yes, thank you very much. First, let me congratulate Dr. Otolorin, the president of my association, M1, an indefatigable president, has worked very hard to maintain the standards, the high standard of our organization. I'm saying this because if we are all going to work outside government, we must be working as credible associations. And there are so many, including that organization. And of course, my other sister's organization, YEMISI's platform. So we have many organizations. Dr. Tolorin has mentioned the issue of women. I believe that there are so many women organizations now that are doing very well. You see, nobody ever gives away power. We have to grab it ourselves. And the way to grab it, of course, is to continue to work hard and to make noise, and that is what we are doing. And you are doing that for us as our president. I have no, I'm sure I have no fear that very soon women will overrun the administration and politics of Nigeria. I have no fear. I remember when we first started the fellowship programs started mainly with male doctors in pediatrics, in every discipline. But today, when you look at all those disciplines, there are more women than male doctors. So I have because women are so hardworking, so reliable, and that's why we are making a case for them. It's not just because we are women. You can see that we have empathy, and we do not want to monopolize positions. We do not. Most of us. Of course, there will be some that will behave like patriarchs, but by and large, women behave differently. They are more maternal. And so, that's why we are making a case for it. And the more you have more women in administration, high up there, the better for us. You take the case of Rwanda. Rwanda, the government, the president there knows that with 35 to 40% of women in his cabinet, he can go to sleep. And he's doing very well. So, Dr. Tolorin, don't worry, we are coming. Dr. Ajayi, I think I got the name right. I remember very well when I came to Ijebu-Ode, and I've already recounted my little experience in Ijebu-Ode, and that was the best part of my working life, to work at that level with the community, apart from the fact that the local government was not forthcoming, but the community, you could rely on them. And so, civil service, every time they try to change things in civil service, it seems that it gets worse. That is my experience with it. The former civil servants, the old civil servants, they were very good. Can't remember their names now, but they were extremely good. They were efficient, and they were not selfish. But the ones that are there now, they are only thinking of themselves, I must say. So, and again, I have said that most times the problems that we are facing may not even be that of politicians, but of civil service. So we need to look at both concurrently. It's not just the politicians. Thank you very much. I think we've already talked about bridging the gaps. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Jumoke Akintelo, you are more than 25 in this forum, 25% affirmation. So I will hand over to you to take the next set of question and answer. Go ahead.
Thank you, Pastor Sani, and thank you everyone that has contributed. So we have about 5 hands up, and so we'll take these as the last one, but the Pastor Tayo has some critical questions about the medical bill that we would like you to speak on before the session ends. So I'm going to ask Auntie BC to speak now. You're muted, and then if we could just have everyone else keep their comments to 30 seconds or less, we would really appreciate that. So go ahead, Auntie BC, with your question, ma. And then we'll have Juliet go next.
Okay, good afternoon. Pastor, good afternoon. Thank you very much for this session. And Prof, thank you so much for all you have said. My contribution will be quite short, but I hope it will give me the push I need to take a step in actually running with the idea. And the effect, I believe, is actually a long-term thing. Maybe I'll be able to drive it under the umbrella of ALG. I really don't know. Now, I hear we all talk all the time of leadership and incoming actors and what we expect of them. And we have been doing this for years. This is good, but I believe we are omitting the process that will lead to that future good governance. For me, it's not the crop of leaders we have now or the ones we have coming in May that is going to affect the good governance. The damage that needs to be repaired after the last election, we all agree, is very distracting enough for the incoming government because they have a Herculean task, which is that of the struggle for legitimacy. So I agree with Prof when she said there is the near impossibility of changing the system we have with this crop of people we have. So now, what's my suggestion? It will seem as if our focus is on the already damaged adult mindset, that you can get anything done and having a comfortable lifestyle unless you do something not too tidy or something unwholesome. This, remember, has been passed down to the immediate generation before them. And this is the generation that refer to themselves today as the youth. Let's face it, even the youths are already damaged. Because you see a father looting the treasury, the father is arrested, paraded on television, sent to jail, and it doesn't mean anything to his children. Now, however, I believe there's still hope. And the hope we have is in the people we call the Gen Zs, the new Gen Zs, the generation. I believe we need to focus on this group who hopefully will yield into the kind of adults we are currently talking about that we have in another 10 to 20 years. It's not something that can be done now, but we need to focus on them. We need to go to the schools, we need to go to the churches, we need to go to, anywhere you see a gathering of youth that are probably within the age of maybe 15 to about 25. And we also need to reach out to the private sector. We have millionaires in the private sector. These are the people that the Gen Zs are looking up to, and they say they want to be as rich as they are. Before we have the minds of the Gen Zs corrupted by the so-called current leadership and the youth we have now, I think we need to address them. Yes, the success or the fruit or the advantage might not be seen now. It's something for the future. In another 10, 20 years, these Gen Zs are going to get into government. We need to tackle them. We need to catch them at this point in time of their life. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ma. We'll reach out to you to engage you in the initiative that ALG is also working on around that. So I'm going to ask Juliet to, Auntie Juliet, please go ahead. I'm asking you to unmute. And then Noyo, you would also go next. Please keep your comments brief. Thank you.
Thank you, Jumoke. Good evening, madam. You have spoken well, but my question is, a lot of solution can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay. A lot of solutions that would have helped ameliorate the economic situation of this country has been poured out here in this program. The chairman has said it all, but the problem is implementation. There are people, good people that wants to rule Nigeria, that want to help the country. People with good ideas, with good visions. But the problem is there are people that decided that they don't want those people to come and rule. And they keep recycling themselves. The National Assembly is not working. So how will Nigeria get better? There are so many, lots of solutions raised here. You can even meet the chairman or Jumoke to give you some of the videos so that we can work with it and meet those people so that they can leave the government, the governorship, the ruling party, the ruling class. Let the fresh ones come. We want fresh breeds. Let these people stop recycling. How can they go out and live and step down for these new ones? That's the question, because they don't want to leave. So how can we make it happen? Thank you.
So your question is, how can we change the status quo and remove the current leaders and empower the youth to take leadership? Okay. So that's your question. I just paraphrased.
That's a question, yeah.
Okay. So Noyo, please go ahead. If you can end with the question, we would appreciate that as well. And
yeah,
then,
I just have a comment. Good evening, all. And good evening to Professor Ms. Graham. I think that's the last name.
Grange, Dr.
Yes,
Professor.
I've listened. I came in late, but however, I got something from what you stated, that leadership is not given. So that means that we women, we need to organize ourselves. We have to be self-assertive. We know what we want. We've observed Nigerian leadership for so many years, and we have seen that we've had a lot of men, and we can say that they failed us.
Three people. No.
Hello.
Apologies. Hello. Go ahead.
Thank you. And we can see that they failed us in so many ways. So what do we have to do now? We need to organize ourselves. Nobody is going to give us the leadership. We have to make a lot of noise, be self-determined, self-assertive, and get ready for the next time the election is coming up. You need to identify the women in your communities that you see that are doing good works, already doing good works, and project them. If we have 10 men running, let us have 10 women running against them. I think that's what we have to do. We want men, but we also want women to be in leadership because we believe that women will do better. I'm sorry to say that, but that's the truth. This is not a cultural thing that we don't have women in leadership, because if you look at our history, we've had a lot of women who did good things, great things for us in our history. So we can still do it.
Thank you.
We are educated now, and I believe that we should just prepare ourselves, continue to empower ourselves, and prepare for the next 4 years. We have a lot of women.
Thank you for those comments. Thank you. So go ahead, Ma, and take those, and then we'll take the very last set of questions. I'm sorry, we are not going to be able to take, it's really hard for me to say I can't take my uncle, but we do have 4 more hands. iPad, you need to rename yourself before we can call you. We're trying to avoid hackers, so please rename yourself. So go ahead, Ma, if you want to respond to those first, to those set of questions or comments, and then we'll take the next set.
Yes, thank you very much. I think I had 3 speakers to respond to. The second speaker was actually asking the question that the first speaker spoke to. That is, the first speaker has made suggestions of what we are to do in getting the youth engaged, and that we have to choose the very young youths, that is the Gen Z, as she called it. She obviously knows a lot about these Gen issues. So 15 to 25 years, and that we have to be patient to see them mature in another maybe 10 to 20 years. Now, we can't wait that long, but if we are, if we adopt the strategy, we can try to fast track the change. That's all I can say about that, because we really cannot wait for 10 to 20 years to change Nigeria. By the time we are waiting 10 to 20 years, they will be further polluted. So Madam Juliet has said that definitely there's need for the older ones to step down and the younger ones to take over. That is what we have all agreed upon. Now, the other issue, I think the last issue is about women, just agreeing with me that we have to work hard to get our space in government, in every sphere, actually, of life and administration. I just want to recommend, I'm on a platform called the Feminist Womanifesto, and they are just out to do that. So if, those people who are interested in trying to get, speaking out, that is, you have to speak out about what your problems are and how you want those problems to be resolved. And how, for example, on that platform, we had been discussing a lot about, is it Governor Sonini or what is happening in the North, who the flip-flop situation of our governorship, So this is a problem. Thank you. We still have the patriarchal environment is what is militating against women's ascendancy. So, just keep that at the back of your mind, and we need to continue to work hard towards it. And we also should work on our women, the women in front, the women at the top, to pull others along, because if we don't do that, you find that they also become just like the men at the top.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark. So we have 4 more hands up, and those are the last ones that we'll take. Dr. Motosho, if we could have you with your comments, if you could keep it to 30 seconds or less, we would greatly appreciate that. There is a pressing issue that we would like Professor to address before we end the session. So please go ahead with your question or comment, and then we'll take Mr. Anthony.
Oh, thank you so much. It's about 2 a.m. here in Western Australia, and thank you for letting me speak. And Professor Grange was my teacher at the Lagos University Teaching Hospital. Thank you so much, Ma, for your good leadership, along with Professor Kuti. My concern is about governance. There's no justice in Nigeria. There's impunity at all levels. And most importantly, there is a problem of security. Whatever good ideas that we may have to practice, whether it is a male or a female, how can we do that without securing the nation and our borders and everywhere? We know what the problem is, and I think it's a fundamental issue which I can't see how even the next government can do it, because it's an orchestrated thing. It's a Fulanized idea, and it's if we don't think about that, we may be talking about change, but it won't come. Now, going back to decentralization, that's a very good one. Is if the incoming president-elect, whoever that will be able to decentralize and make the center very unattractive. Because if the senators and the governors, and the presidents don't have enough money, let's say they have maybe 1/10 of what they are earning, they will not be fighting over heads to be at the center and make policy that doesn't work. And I think there's a high time we review the 1999 Constitution. I'm a retired military man. I'm a retired wing commander. I've been I've served in many states. I've been in the military before. And that 1999 Constitution is just our base. It's a fraud. It didn't say we the people. It's a decree 4. It's an act. So when you look at other countries' constitution, we the people say we want to do this. We must agree to do what how to govern ourselves. We have never agreed, and that's one of the problems to address. Now, finally, with regards to health, in particular, I would like to say that the maternal mortality rate in Nigeria and the infant mortality rate is appalling, even by African standards. I've worked in Ghana before. Ghana has a better maternal mortality rate than Nigeria. And so, government, how can we engage the private sector in partnership? How can we do that to make sure that we have a process in place? Dr. Grange, Professor Grange, how can we have partnership with foreigners, maybe other bodies, for private people, private doctors who want to really do some job in bringing down the maternal mortality rate and infant mortality rate in Nigeria? Thank you so much.
Thank you. So if we can have Mr. Anthony also ask his question, please. We are really asking everyone to please keep it as brief as possible so that we can end the session. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, hello, good afternoon, everybody. So I just have a question about the election that happened on February 25. What does you, in our opinion, regarding the situation, what does Professor Grange, what does she think about the judiciary? Does she think there'll be justice, given the evidence the way it is right now? There's reports of evidence that the election was obviously rigged, but does she believe that there'll be justice, because it's not about one person, like it's my turn or not, but we're talking about a civilization here. The Black race is at stake here, given that Nigeria has the largest population of Black people in the world. What does she think about the possibility of having justice, and so that Nigeria can have a breather once and for all?
Thank you. So, Mr. Fadele, please go ahead with your question. And Ma, if we can take the very last one, which would be from Mr. Akindeko, so that you have 4. I made notes of some of the questions here. So please go ahead, Mr. Fadele.
Yes, I was thinking that we think outside the box. What is Prof's thinking on a referendum on 2 issues? Full federalism, like we have in America, or back to parliamentary, as we have in Britain? Don't you think a referendum on those 2 could help resolve all the problems we're having? Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you. I appreciate you for keeping your comments brief. And we would have the very last one, which is Mr. Akindeko. Go ahead, Uncle. Go ahead with your question. Oh, we also have, we'll take your question now, sir.
Good evening, ma'am. I thank you very much. All protocol observed. I'm one of your favorite followers. Although I'm not a medical practitioner, I served as the local government chairman for health in the local government when you started all that in wonderful work you did with health. Thank you. But my point is actually to do with the female gender. It's important, Ma, if you can lend your experience to our group of wonderful people on this platform, what it takes for a female to perform in political office in the Nigerian firmament. Now, I'm not referring especially to your experience, for which we were all girding up to fight thoroughly before you graciously stepped aside. I'm talking about the need for the female functionary to realize that she has to have a very special family, a very special husband, exceptionally friendly friends who will help her to get through the stress, the buffeting that goes with being in political office. This thing is not just an ambition in the air. It takes a lot of sacrifice. And I believe that your experience and the experience of ladies like you will help more of them to succeed when they eventually get the gumption to go for it. Thank you, Ma, and God bless you mighty. Thank you very much, Jumoke.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so Ma, we have just one more hand up. I don't know if you want to take that and then, or you want to address these comments first and then we'll take the very last one later.
No, we can take it.
Okay.
But you'll have to remind me of the first two.
Okay, yes. Ambassador Mighty, if you have your hand, please go ahead, sir.
Good evening, my mother and everyone. It's a privilege to be here. I want to use the opportunity to say that some women took a very strong decision in 1994. And that decision has yielded a lot of fruit that will definitely save this country. And the woman that led those women then is Professor Adenike Grange. And I was one of the young children they discovered. And today I stand as a young leader who understands the country beyond what the country has. What I want to tell all of us here is that Nigeria is sitting on a keg of gunpowder. I deal with young people. There is a lot of danger. Just this morning, my house was attacked by an assassin, but everyone is safe and everyone is fine. There's a lot of issues going on in this country. We must, whatever happens, we must be intentional about providing for forceful opposition. It is very important. We must begin to think of how to provide for forceful opposition and serious pushbacks. And I'm giving this out finally before I bow out here, that please note that the political class will never, ever allow the young people to take over. And if you see any young person they are putting there, they are putting toothless dogs that they have mentored to be just like them. So we must be intentional about going forward, starting with forceful opposition and, of course, serious pushbacks of a lot of nonsense to be showing at us in this coming regime. God bless Nigeria. There is so much hope. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. I think that was mostly a comment or contribution. So, Ma, if you could take those, the last
okay,
one.
can you just remind me of the first two? I think the first one was on health, maternal
health and the decline.
Yes, and partnership with private doctors.
Yes.
Do you remember who said it?
He was a doctor from Australia. That much I remember.
Okay.
And I think he said he was one of
Dr. Jose.
Dr. Motosho. Jose or Motosho, yeah.
Okay,
Dr. Motosho. And then Mr. Anthony asked if there would be justice through the legal system for this election. And then your thoughts on the referendum for federalism or parliamentary.
Sure.
And then Mr.
I know the rest. I've got them. Thank you. Thank you. So Dr. Motosho, thank you very much for your complimentary comments. about the past. Yes, of course, maternal mortality is very high. You know, this was what we were monitoring. And we kept saying that, you know, we are not making a dent in maternal mortality, child mortality, etc. Those are indicators of failed government. But every time we talked, we were pushed to the corner. And, you know, that's because the people who were being affected did not realize what the problems were. The problems were not that the doctors were not trying their best, but they were not being given support to do what they were supposed to do. So the possibility of partnership with private doctors, that it is very important. And there are many possibilities now, actually. There are doctors who have set up, particularly in Lagos, you know, the capitals, Enugu, or, you know, other capital. I believe that, you know, we can try to find out for you if you are particularly interested. If you can contact me later. I think, Jumoke, you can give them my phone number. In fact, we do have a particular organization to which I belong, and we have diasporan doctors working with Nigerian doctors. We try to get them in to work with Nigerian doctors. So that is a possibility, and it's happening. Mr. Anthony, do I believe that there will be justice? Your guess is as good as mine. We are hoping that there will be justice, but you have heard from my son who spoke last, Ambassador Mighty, that we have to be on the alert. And, you know, they are desperate. There's desperation in the air. So hopefully there will be justice up to a point. Whatever it is, we have to pray that there will be peace. I know that there is no peace without justice usually, but in this case, for the sake of being able to continue with life and the country, we need to pray that there will be justice. Mr. Fadili, through federation or parliamentary, do you know, I've been thinking about this. How these countries arrived at the mode of government that they had, or that they now have, has been an evolution. It's been evolutionary. You know, do you know that the UK doesn't have a constitution? What they have are norms, and they just obey. Now, you cannot, that is a very dangerous thing for a developing country, to say that you will not even have a reference point which is agreed upon by everybody. So as far as parliamentary is concerned, we have to, parliamentary is again a regional type of government. Yes, that is what we have been asking for, that we should all develop in our various regions. And the federalists is more like, you know, what has happened with federalism is that they have become very capitalistic in orientation. Unfortunately, we are still rather poor, that most of our people are poor, to be ruled by capitalists. So we need to look at both and see if we can evolve our own middle of the road type of government. We don't have to be true federalists or parliamentary, but we do know that they exist. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a constitutional person, but definitely it takes everybody to come to the table to discuss that problem. Thank you. Mr. Akindeko, the female gender. Oh, yes, I couldn't agree with you more. Especially, you see, it takes the female gender, it takes a female a long, long time to reach the very top, the topmost level that she wants to get to. And by the time she gets there, she would have sacrificed quite a lot. Some, you know, she would not be able to be with her children for long periods, etc., etc. And as you said, you have to have a special family. You have to have a special husband. But all these special people, they don't just fall on one's lap. We actually have to make them special again. So that is another job for us. So you find that we are working at both ends, you know, front end and back end and whatever, and we're shuttling back and forth. What I must say is that she has to be strong. She has to be, you know, physically and emotionally strong. And of course, psychologically strong, you know. Those who are not, I'm afraid they will not be able to make it. And that's what it takes for a female to have to be able to manage both sides. I remember when I had my own problem, it was the friends of my husband who got together and said, no, this must not happen. And they donated and got me lawyers, etc. So there you are. Ambassador Mighty, my son, you know, he's giving you the testimony. And so that again falls in line with the first person who spoke and said that it would take a long time to groom the young ones to be able to perform in the way that we want them to perform. And you don't, when you groom them, you don't leave them alone. And you know, because if you leave them alone, they will be pulled or pushed into the wrong groups. There are so many groups out there. And what we want are youth who are going into the right progressive group. So thank you very much, Ambassador Abayomi, for your testimony. And I know that you are working very hard on the future of the youth. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ma, for addressing all those questions and comments. There is a particular issue that I would have liked for us to spend some time on, but I know we have come to the end of the session. And so maybe it's probably another session that we would dedicate on that. But there is a burning question in everyone's mind on this new policy or bill that is being legislated, not allowing doctors to travel out of the country. And we know that, I mean, the Japa syndrome has really impacted the health sector. So I know we need to spend time on that to really delve into the matter and see how we can resolve that. But if we could have you comment on that as part of your closing remark, we will greatly appreciate that. And maybe we would find time with Dr. Yemisi and Dr. Kemi Otolorin, I believe, and the others for us to really delve into this. Thank you, Ma.
Thank you. Yes, actually, a lot has been said about it, you know. There's been a big pushback on it, rightly so. But one aspect that I would like to maybe make comments on, can't talk at length on it, and that is the fact that even today, the House officers are suffering. They are supposed to have to be able to go straight into their practical training program in hospitals. But there are not enough places in those hospitals. There are not enough well-equipped and staffed hospitals that will be able to accommodate them for them to earn their experience, the experience we want them to have before they are certified capable of handling issues, health issues on their own, or medical issues on their own. So as of now, there is a backlog of house officers not being able to get into those institutions. So to now say that they should stay behind in Nigeria for 5 years, when you are not even able to let us know whether there will be places for them to practice, it just doesn't make sense. And, there are, of course, other issues with that bill. The bill is a non-starter. There are human rights issues, human rights violation issues, because doctors are not the only ones who are supposed to make sacrifice for Nigeria. They themselves are supposed to make sacrifice for Nigeria. But what do? They junket abroad when they're ill. So, and leave the doctors to manage the healthcare delivery system that is crumbling. And they now feel good that they have kept doctors behind. Doctors, the healthcare delivery system cannot work with doctors who are not well trained or who do not have equipment in the hospitals. They do not have good support systems, etc. So they are just not speaking the truth about what they want. In fact, they did not even define their goal. What is their goal? They want to just keep doctors in Nigeria. That is not a good goal. Thank you.
Thank you, Ma. And to your point, if we had working healthcare system, and I'm not going to name names, maybe we would have had better governance from an administration that spent more time outside the country receiving medical treatment than really governing the nation. So that is probably a topic for another day. And someone had put in the comment section that health is paramount to developing and building a nation, because it's healthy citizens that can really contribute to national development. We can't really thank you. I don't know if Mr. Chairman is back in, but we can't thank you enough for this time spent with you. We could go on for another hour or so. I know I don't get tired of hearing from you, and there's so much to learn from your generation. And we're hoping that we can tap into that vast resource of knowledge that you have as we begin to take the baton from you and move forward. So we're looking to engage you and others that have spoken on this platform for us to really fill the gap and move the nation to where we want it to be. Thank you for your continued struggle. You haven't given up on Nigeria. And so that inspires those of us that are still believing and hoping for a great Nigeria. If you haven't given up, then we definitely will not give up. So we want to thank you so much for everything that you've done for the country, that you're still doing for the country. And we know that your labor over Nigeria will not be in vain. Your sacrifice will not be in vain. Nigeria will be great again. Thank you. Is Mr. Chairman back in for me to hand over back to him for his closing comments?
In the interim, I want to thank you, Jumoke. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll definitely be in touch and I'll bother you some more, but I will make sure that I don't stress you. We'll give you ample time. So thank you, Ma. I know it was short notice. We really appreciate you. And thank you to all our mommies and daddies that came on, and aunties and uncles, those of you that have been in this space fighting for Nigeria. We really appreciate you, and you're the reason that we can continue to do what we do. But we'll definitely reach out to you. There was a form that I put in the chat room to engage with ALG. We would really appreciate you filling that form out, and so that we can get in touch with you. This is not, it's not work that we can do without your knowledge and your expertise and support. So we definitely would need to engage you more. Thank you so much, everyone, for 2 productive hours. We appreciate you. Pastor Sonny, okay, Mr. Chairman is back in now. I know he probably was on the road. Mr. Chairman, are you back in?
Has Professor Grange given her closing remarks?
Well, you know, I mean, most of what I said on the last questions and comments would serve as closing remarks, I think. And no, I just feel I feel more hopeful now that we've been able to talk. It's a very, very you can't just not imagine what it is like to be away from home and be hearing about all these problems, and you cannot be there because you dare not be there. And so I feel really hopeful that at least something will be done. And we are hoping that there will be justice and peace.
Amen. Amen. Mr. Chairman, are you in? I saw you come in.
I think he has issue with his line.
He has with his network.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I think we can close.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you again, everyone. Appreciate your time here. And it's always good to have this engaging conversation on the way forward. We are hoping that we'll continue this conversation. So this is it's a virtual town hall that happens every Thursday, same time, 5 p.m. Again, there's a form in the chat room. So please go ahead and fill that form so that we can have your contact information, and then feel free to reach out to any one of us. If you have comments or you have questions, you can reach out to members at africaleadershipgroup.org. It's Africa, not African, africaleadershipgroup.org. And then you can also reach the first chairman of VC at africaleadershipgroup.org. So, but please fill that form. That's the best way for us to get your contact information, and someone would definitely reach out to you. And like Prof has said, this is a collaborative and collective effort. We can do this together. So thank you for participating this evening. I appreciate you, and have a very good evening. God bless you, and God bless Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Prof, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you very much. God bless you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ma. I will definitely call you, Prof.
Thank you, Ma.
Thank you.
Thank you.